The Wayne County Jane Doe, identified as Connie Christensen. We are starting this case in Wayne County, Indiana, on December 26, 1982. Some hunters were out hiking along Martindale Creek, north of Jacksonburg, Indiana. They would find remains off of a trail that looked really out of place. The woman wore high-heeled wooden clogs, a long-sleeved blue blouse, gray slacks, and they had a maternity stretch panel in them, as well as a blue jacket. It was obviously not something anyone would wear to go hiking on a trail, and this sort of added to the mystery of it all. She was likely 18 to 22, 5'3 to 5'7, or 160 to 170 centimeters. No COD could be determined, but they were sure that it was foul play, and she had likely been there for about half of a year. The police did all they could trying to trace the vendor of an opal ring that she was wearing, but they didn't get any leads, and they suspected she wasn't from the area. Over the years, they kept trying. In fact, they tried multiple times to get DNA, but it never succeeded. They had to wait for technology to advance further. The same was said for testing clothing for DNA, and so hopefully they may get more about who did this to her. The DNA Doe Project was kind enough to take this case, working alongside Astria Forensics, choosing to use genetic genealogy to try to crack this case. The DNA Doe Project got lucky, and they came up with 2 close family member matches. The team leader for this case, Lori Flowers, would say, taking a DNA test and uploading to GEDmatch is the best way for families of missing persons to help organizations like ours to make identifications. They were able to give a woman back her name and a family back the knowledge of why she disappeared. Connie Christensen was just 20 when someone took her life. The estimate of her age was spot on, with the true age landing directly in the middle of the 18 to 22 estimate. The worst part of the story is that Connie was a young mother, meaning there was a child out there who went 40 years looking for answers. I think those are nearly as victimized as the parents. It literally changes the lives of these kids. Connie was placed by an eyewitness in Tennessee in April of 1982, although she was actually from Oregon. Connie was found the same year that she went missing, and it's believed she was pregnant at the time, which would explain her maternity pants, and makes the person who did this even that much more evil. Although I suppose it's degrees of evil by now. She would say it was hard to go to school and tell people she didn't have a mom. It affected everything. She found herself in tears when the DNA Doe Project contacted her at her job, saying that they believed they'd solved it. She would say that she knew right away concrete confirmation with her DNA would be coming soon. They'd found her mom. Misty would say she always felt close to her mom. She'd asked a lot of questions of her family growing up, and her mom loved cats. She was an animal person, and her daughter would also grow up to love animals as well. She would say that she was given her mom's opal ring, which she now wears around her neck, along with some of her mom's ashes. She fell in love with opals when she was 12, and so it touched her that her mom loved them too. She said that it's not enough to just know what happened to her in the abstract. She needs to know what truly happened to her and who did this. So that means someone needs to contact the police to give more information. They announced to the public that the case is so old that the sheriff's office no longer has it, so the Indiana State Police are the ones that need to be contacted. They do know she was from Oregon and had been living in Wisconsin. She was supposed to return and never did, and it was at this time she was reported missing. Connie is described as being a free spirit who lived a somewhat transient lifestyle. But she loved her daughter, and when her daughter was left with her aunt watching her, no one expected that her mom wouldn't return. We know now that she was 450 miles or 724 kilometers from home, which is pretty far and just makes it that much harder to have matched them. Her family didn't even know where to look. It was further complicated by the fact that she left on her daughter Misty's birthday. One of Connie's 8 siblings remembers her saying goodbye, but not where she was going. The family was interviewed in 1992 by 27 News, allowing for some coverage of the case to be released in hopes that someone would come forward. Her sister would say as far as they knew she was still alive. While not elaborating with details, they would say that Connie had a hard life as she grew up, and she had in the past traveled with some carnivals, so they thought it was possible she was traveling with a carnival now, or at least when she left. She perhaps got in some sort of legal trouble, and that was why she was missing. They never fully considered the fact that she might no longer be alive. Now that her sister Diane knows and has some answers, she would say, so much of the time has passed and a lot of the people that may have been connected are probably no longer here. So that's kind of a dead end for us. Going on to share that her family is sad because Connie missed out on so much in life and the word closure doesn't apply in this case. That she never got to know her nieces, nephews, or her own daughter. They are now grieving and processing this specific outcome, one they didn't want but still needed in order to ever find a semblance of peace, saying they buried her ashes with her parents and younger brother, as well as planting an apple tree on their property to honor her on what would have been her birthday. Her family believes that she may have been trying to travel home via bus and ended up at the former bus station and diner in Indiana off Interstate 70 in Cambridge City when her life was taken nearby. Her family traveled to Wayne, Indiana to speak to the police, wanting answers as well as to see where she was found. Misty is sad that her grandparents passed without ever knowing what happened to Connie, but thankfully others who knew her could still join the memorial service and burial. Sometimes it seems easy to judge cases like this. After all, she left and she was pregnant, and there was probably increased danger in the actions that she was taking. But it's important to remember that she was 20. Probably a lot of us did some dumb things at 20. You think the world is a little bit different than it really is. I just mention this because I've had probably about half a dozen family members comment on videos, maybe a little bit more, and it's just important to remember somebody in their family who's hurting could see it. And she was so young, things could have turned around, who knows. It appears they may be onto something for finding the person who did this. A CT scan was made with 3D photos of every injury in hopes they may need it for court someday. And they came up with a person of interest who lives in Wisconsin and was a family acquaintance. However, he passed away himself shortly after he was interviewed. So it's not clear exactly what happened or if they found anything out. Whoever it was, the family provided the police with photos of Connie and this person when she was the age on the screen, and he was 30, which is already disturbing in and of itself. Making it worse, the man had a history of violent crime and had lived into his 80s. The police are pretty sure he's the culprit, but they're still hoping trace evidence or something else might let them close this case for sure. Connie Christensen went unidentified for 40 years. Had she lived the life she deserved, she would be 60 years old today. The Reno Jane Doe, 1997, identified as Lorena Gayle Mosley, also known as Lorena Sherwood. In June of 1997, rock climbers in Reno, Nevada, made the discovery of a woman buried under stones in a shallow grave. They made their way back to report what they found, and the examination would suggest she was between 35 and 45, and around 5'2" or 158 centimeters. She likely had brown hair, and at some point in her life, the left side of her mandible had fractured to the point that she needed a placement of a metal plate. Her COD couldn't be determined, but the conditions where she was found made it pretty clear someone had done this to her. The only other clues were dark blue dungaree trousers in a size 5.5, white athletic shoes and socks, as well as a black padded long-sleeved jacket with bright orange lining. Additionally, she had an Elgin brand watch, a black and silver coated metal ring with a magenta-colored stone, and the inscription 1992 and the word Oak Ridge. Additionally, there was a bolo tie and a metal whistle. Their investigation would hit a brick wall pretty quickly. The situation wasn't one that really lent itself to any clues other than the items found with her. They did enter her into NamUs, hoping for further information. This is yet another case solved by Othram Labs. In addition, there was a follow-up investigation done afterward by the Washoe County Regional Medical Examiner's Office, after which they were able to match her with fingerprints that had been taken previously. And they were able to match her fingerprints with some from a booking photo. As I say this, it sounds sort of like police messed up and didn't search correctly, but I want to make it clear there's no indication that's true. The prints themselves were on a paper document, not a digital one. And in this case, they only found them through genetic genealogy and being able to work backwards. So as far as her identification went, it was made on November 30th, 2023. Lorena Gayle Mosley also went by the last name of Sherwood, and she was 41 when someone took her life. They even had someone call in to say that his friend had confessed to doing this, but the caller didn't give his identification, and he didn't say who his friend was. There's a suspect, but not enough evidence so far. For this reason, like so many others, they need people to come forward. I provided a number to call if you have any idea. Lorena Gayle Mosley went unidentified for 26 years. Had she lived the life she deserved, she would be 67 years old today. Huge thanks for watching all the way to the end, and a big thanks to all of you who consistently like and comment on the videos. Whether you leave a full comment or an emoji, it makes a huge difference. So if you consistently watch my videos, maybe take a moment to subscribe. It's a huge push toward the videos being suggested to new people. The next goal is 20,000. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care of yourselves and each other.